Well, hey there, everyone. Thanks so much for joining into this week's MCC Moment. Last Sunday, I spoke about men's emotional health, which is often not something that is widely talked about. It's so rarely talked about, in fact, that most people immediately think mental health, and they will define somebody's emotional health by how they mentally are. Whereas really the truth of the matter is it's very connected, our mental and our emotional health, but very rarely do we take stock to look at the signs of which our emotions are displaying, the signposts down the road that our emotions actually display what we are feeling inside and how healthy we are inside. The Bible says it this way, that out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. And so often what is the heart of the matter often comes out when certain buttons are pushed. And so it may only be that my qualification to speak on men's emotional health is simply because I am a man. But this is not to in any way, shape or form exclude women in this conversation either. But today I just want to focus just very briefly upon men's emotional health, and I'm sure everybody who's listening, I hope that everybody who's listening and who's watching will be able to get a lot out of this. If I hadn't mentioned, my name's Pastor Matt, I'm a senior leader at Manningham Christian Centre. And so often in relation to men's emotional health is that there is always a fight within. There is a fight, there's an inward voice, there's an inward fight that as a man we're battling with constantly. And a part of that fight is, the truth is that warriors are often not found until there is a recognizable fight, and that would display in our temper, it would display in our ability or inability to speak how we feel. Excuse me, and you know, I can you know, just think of the men that are in and around my own life, and there is so many of them that I think to myself, man, if I was in the trenches fighting, I know who I would want by my side. I know those men because at some level we are emotionally connected, but at the same time there is that ability for mateship. And often as men, we often don't connect until there is a crisis, until there is an absolute reason for that connection. And my encouragement to you during this video is that don't wait for a crisis. Don't wait for those signposts down the road of where there is either a personal crisis or some external crisis. But the reality is this, is that men's emotions are expressed very differently to women's emotions. And whilst I talk about being a warrior, that is not to exclude or not to say that women are not warriors either, because they most certainly are. But men's emotions are very different to women's emotions. The way that a man processes them are very, very different. And so deep within a man, the problem with men is that we don't realize that there is an internal fight going on. And that internal fight, it has some key characteristics. And again, I'm no expert, but I'm going to do my best. One of them is to be heard. As a man, to be heard, to be recognized, and to be understood and remembered. And often this can look like or display as ego. We've all got an ego. We've all got something, some axe to grind about our own personal pride. But men do it in a wonderful way. It's why we don't ask for directions. It's why we don't easily admit fault. It's all of those things that I'm sure everybody has experienced in some form or another. But it is that recognition that we long to be recognized. We long, as a man, I long to be understood. I long to be recognized. And again, the same is for women. But it is processed differently emotionally, and that's what I'm trying to articulate poorly, but trying to articulate. So one thing that a man will be able to do, and in response to processing his own emotions, to processing in a healthy way all the emotions that is felt, and that is one thing. As a man, you've got to be able to find your cause. You have to be able to know what you're fighting for. I love in the Bible, in Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 14, it says, fight for your family, fight for your community, my paraphrase. We have to be able to know what we're fighting for. We can be fighting for time with our family. We can be fighting for, conquering some sort of achievement in a workplace. We could be fighting for that promotion. We could be, working towards something that fulfills that need to be heard or remembered at the end of our life. And you see, as we fight for our community, and there's no greater time to fight for our community and for our family than right now. But you need to understand that if we are not fighting for something, then if we don't have a cause, I should say, we will always fight for the wrong thing. And that might be displayed in video games. It could be displayed in temper tantrums. It could be displayed in other areas as well. It's a bit like soldiers who are being trained to fight but never go off to war. Not that I want any soldier to have to go off to war, but it's like you've trained all your life for something and then you never get the opportunity to fulfill that in a real environment. It's a bit like, as a kid, I learnt very early not to sit next to my father whilst watching a football game, particularly watching Richmond play. And Dad was a star football player in his time back in Sandringham, and whether he was sitting on the couch or running out on the field, kicking a beautiful drop punt down the wing, both were the same. He would move, jolt, and he still does move and jolt as he watches the football game taking place, because in his mind he's playing that out. He's reliving that. In his mind, he is fighting for that goal or fighting for the ball, even though he's watching it on a screen. And so it's a bit like that. Without a cause, you will fight for the wrong thing. Without something to know, without being able to know what you're fighting for, you'll fight for the wrong thing. And so find your cause, number one. Find your cause to be emotionally healthy. The second thing is make a decision and commit to it. At some point, the trigger has to be pulled. At some point, the decision has to be made. I am going to go and conquer this achievement, whatever that might be. It might be I'm going to love my family better. I'm going to love my wife better. Or if you're single, I have a cause of which I'm working towards in a greater way. And as we do that, we need to understand that we're working towards it with other people. So you find that cause, you start to work towards it, you commit to it, you pull the trigger on that, and you bring somebody else, and you bring a mate or a group of mates along with you to help achieve that together. That is why men's sheds are just so important, because there is that sense, there's got camaraderie, and there's that ability to come together and achieve something. And the third thing is know when to turn the cheek. As men, our ego and our pride will get us into too many nasty situations. You've got to know when to fold. And I'm not talking about gambling. You've got to know when to lay things down and say, yep, I missed it. I've made a mistake. I've messed up. And I long to be able to make that right, whatever that right is. And so I just want to encourage you with that, and I hope that that's been helpful for you. And so I just want to say, find your cause, make a decision, and know when to turn the other cheek. Find your cause, make a decision, and know when to turn the other cheek. Know when to lay it down, and you can be well on the way to being emotionally healthy. So I hope this is helpful for you, and we'll look forward to catching up with you really, really soon. See you soon. Bye for now.